Hello folks, Pipeman 1861 here, and a very happy Independence Day to you. I trust that you all have had a good day so far. Well, probably should just say I hope you've all had a good day, because by the time this video uploads it'll probably be toward the evening. But we've been busy the first half of the day, and probably going to be busy the second half too. But I needed to sit down and make a video. It seems like every time I always wanted to make a video on a holiday. I did my Christmas video last couple of years in a row. Christmas special maybe. Well, seems like I never get around to making one any other holiday, so missed Memorial Day and everything else. So for Independence Day, I figured I would better do something. So I hope everyone's having a good one. Now for my Independence Day video, I figured I'd better put together the most American smoking experience that we could get. Okay, so I got my red, white, and blue shirt on, Western cut, red, white, and blue shirt. I got my blue jeans. I got my Union kepi from a Civil War reenactment. So my outfit's on par. For my pipe, it's my Missouri Meerschaum bronze medal pipe that I got last year. The replica they made of one of their early pipes from the early 1900s. My lighter is my 1947 Zippo, about as American as it gets lighter-wise. Tobacco is Casey Jones' Last Ride, which is a very cherry aromatic. That's pretty fairly American there. My tamper is my 69 caliber mini ball tamper from Larry Blackett, gifted to me by Eric. Thank you, Eric, again. And I am drinking some lime shrub that my wife made. And it hits the spot. Sitting out here under the shade tree in the backyard, only one we have. Just finished checking the bees. They're going to town. They're going kind of slow. There's a little bit of a lack of nectar right now. Toward August, middle of July, early August, they'll start getting the goldenrod coming in, and then they'll be able to make some more honey. But for the time being, they're kind of coasting. Been a beautiful day, sun shining. It's hot. It's about 92 out here, I think. But it's not bad out in the shade here. Pretty nice. I got a bunch of this Casey Jones' Last Ride on sale quite a while ago. It was a very good sale too. I haven't smoked it in a while. It's pretty good stuff. I'm usually not much of a cherry aromatic person, but this is pretty good. My wife and I have enjoyed a nice, quiet last couple of days. Yesterday was our 4th wedding anniversary, so we had a nice, went out to eat, had a nice meal. That's been good. Last weekend we went to a Civil War reenactment. It was just kind of a living history. There wasn't any military battle of any sort, but we had a nice time visiting with some people. I think I mentioned that in another video. Excuse me if I did. But had a really nice time there. But we've been doing good. Little chickens are getting bigger. Garden is doing kind of abysmally, if I'm being honest, this year. It was so cold for so long, and then it was so wet. We have a couple, 3 tomato plants that might do something, but that's about it. We'll see. We're not planning on doing any, going to any fireworks. My parents are having a little shindig, but we have so much to do around here that we're going to forego that this year. It's good stuff. You know, it's funny. I thought I probably ought to talk about something historical today. Seeing as how Pipe Man 1861, you know. But since I don't have anything prepared, you know, I'm just going to ramble a little. Of course, the famous battle of the Civil War, the famous battle of the Civil War was Gettysburg. It was fought July 2nd through 4th, 1863. Well, there was another battle of the Civil War that was fought about the same time. I think it was July 2nd, if I remember correctly. I'd have to look it up to be sure. The Battle of Corydon. Now, very few people have heard of the Battle of Corydon, unless you live in this part of the country. The Battle of Corydon was the only Civil War battle, recognized Civil War battle versus a skirmish, that was fought in the state of Indiana during the Civil War. Now, Morgan's Raiders, General John Hunt Morgan, he was in the cavalry, and he got together about 2,500 fellas, and they did a cavalry raid through Kentucky, a little bit of Tennessee, but through Kentucky, Indiana, and Ohio. It was the longest cavalry raid of the Civil War. It was the furthest, the northernmost point any Confederate troops ever came in during the Civil War. They made it to West Point, Ohio. It was quite the feat. But the Battle of Corydon was when they crossed the Ohio River from Brandenburg, Kentucky to Corydon, Indiana. And they were crossing the river, and there was a unit of the Home Guard stationed there. And like I say, it's been quite a while since I read up on the history of this, so I apologize if I tell you anything wrong, but they crossed the river, and there was a Home Guard unit that had been outfitted with Henry repeating rifles. Well, if you don't know about history of firearms, the Henry was the first, one of the very first repeating self-contained metallic cartridge firing firearms, and it was the predecessor of the Winchester lever action rifle. It would hold 16 cartridges, and you could fire it as fast as you could work the lever and pull the trigger, which for 1860, which is when it was patented, that was unheard of. Matter of fact, the old advertising, one of the old advertising banners for the Henry was, they claimed that if a man has a good horse and a Henry, he cannot be captured. Which may be true. But, so they had been outfitted with the Henry rifles. And they were also fitted with special cartridge boxes that had, I can't remember if it's 5 or 6 tubes of 16 cartridges apiece. They were basically speed loaders. You could quickly load 16 cartridges by dumping the tube into the magazine of the Henry. So they were very quick to load and reload and fire. And I think there were only about 125. There were 125 Home Guard fellows against approximately 2,500 Confederate cavalry. And they held them off for an hour and a half, which is very impressive. They were overwhelmed. They surrendered. They were captured. But the reason I'm telling you all this, there is actually a personal interest in this for me. I don't think there were any killed on the Union side. There were very few wounded, but I don't think there were any killed. There were several, I think there were 6 or 7 killed on the Confederate side. And one of the guys who was killed was Private Albert Womack. And Womack happens to be my last name. He was a cousin of mine, probably far removed, from Tennessee. I've never done the genealogy through it, but I was related to him, or I am related to him. So I think that's kind of neat that he ended up, well, it wasn't neat that he got killed, but it was interesting. He ended up in that battle. But, and then Morgan kept on going up through Indiana, reached Vernon, Indiana, tried to capture the town. They were a little bit more heavily fortified. The Home Guard guys were a little more heavily fortified there, and he had Federal cavalry chasing after him. So he didn't want to wait around, so he snuck away. And then he went to Versailles, captured Versailles, captured a bunch of Home Guard guys there, busted their muskets around the corner of the courthouse there, stole $5,000 out of the town treasury, kept on going, eventually ended up, he went through Sunman, around the area of Sunman, which is incredibly close to where I live. He marched within about 5 miles of our house. He ended up in Harrison, Ohio. He crossed the Whitewater River at Harrison, Ohio. And so Indiana, he wasn't Indiana's problem anymore after that. But as they went, they would steal horses to replace their worn out ones. And the stories go that the quality of horses in this part of the country increased amazingly after that, because they would drop off their worn out horses, take the farmers' horses, the plow horses and what have you, and they would leave their worn out Kentucky thoroughbreds with the farmers. So they would, nurse, get them back to health, let them rest. Turned out to be way better horses than what they stole, which I find quite funny. Then he continued up through Ohio, and he was finally captured. He started out with 2,500 guys. He ended up with 700 something, so they whittled him down pretty good. People were taking pot shots at him all the way up. The initial plan was he was going to cross the Ohio River back into Kentucky. He was going to loop around Cincinnati in a way and go back down. But the river had risen just enough to allow the federal gunboats to go up the Ohio River just far enough to stop that plan. So he was forced to continue north. There's an exceptionally good book on that subject. It's called The Longest Raid of the Civil War by Lester Horwitz. I very strongly recommend you get a copy of that. Because he did a good job. It goes through sort of play by play what happened during the Morgan's raid. And by day by day, So it's a really good book. So I'd recommend that if you haven't read it. Well, anyway, everybody, I think with that ramble over, I'm going to let you all go. I'm going to finish my pipe. I'm just going to have a nice day, and I hope you all do the same. This is Pipe Man, 1861, saying goodbye. Good luck. May the good Lord take a liking to you. I will see you all again very soon. God bless America. And, as always, happy smoking. Thank you, folks. Bye now.
I'm a Yankee Doodle Dandy, a Yankee Doodle do or die. A real live nephew of my Uncle Sam, born on the 4th of July.